Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. It's great pleasure to be here with you. We are going to discuss today about the topic you chose, that is frontal chakra or the third eye chakra. I would like first to mention a few things about this so that we can tune with the topic and then we can better focus our questions. So it would be a pleasure to share with you about some of that. For those of you who are here with me for the first time, thank you for joining. And I know some of you are not necessarily subscribed to the channel, but I just want to mention that sometimes I publish videos in different languages. Keep an eye because I publish in Portuguese, in English, and eventually in Spanish, but Portuguese and English every week. Let me open here what I need to see your questions when you have questions. Um, but what I would like to mention first is that what exactly is a chakra? What exactly is the frontal chakra, and why there is so much interest about it? And a lot of the interest comes from our own experiences and what we would like to know and understand, but also a lot of the interest also comes from so much different publications and different accounts about this. Comes also from the Hindu tradition, in which they emphasize a lot the need of the importance to open the third eye so that we would have better clairvoyance or more control of our energies and all of that. Let me adjust my camera. So I want to mention to you about this and also to explain why it grew to be in that way, that so much attention is paid to the frontal chakra or third eye. I normally call it frontal chakra because it's in the frontal lobe area. There are other chakras in our head, and but of course, third eye is an equally good name. Um, I would like first to mention that to sense a chakra or not sense a chakra is more related to how loose our energies are, and of course to the threshold of our sensitivity, than to the fact that that chakra will be working properly or not. So sometimes we would like to sense our third eye, or we would like to sense the energies here, as some people describe, and that's relatively common experience. But also we would like in many cases to have more clairvoyance or to produce more astral projections because we are supposedly in control of the third eye chakra. But that's not so much connected or absolute. It's not a direct relationship necessarily. Why? Because some people, they would or they could have their frontal chakra very activated, but they are not so sensitive to notice it. However, others, they could be so sensitive that even with a small effect or a small movement or a small reaction or activation of the chakra, they would sense it. So if you don't sense the third eye so much, don't focus so much on your sensation then. Let's focus on how you are manifesting your awareness, your perception of what's going on. And when I say perception, I'm not talking about only visual perception of the physical world. Of course, I'm also referring to your sensitivity to what is beyond our physical body or to what would be in the non physical realm of life and also in the energies around. So that is super important that we understand because we need to know how to differentiate what is just a coincidence, what is just an idea in our mind, and what could be a real perception based on our energies. So the frontal chakra has a very important, let's say, role in our energy body and in our sensitivity and perceptions, because our frontal chakra is what somehow connects to the thinking part of us that is related to rationality, association of ideas. So the whole process of coming to a conclusion or putting arguments there and getting to a point that we understand something, that is very much related to the frontal chakra. The coronal chakra, the top of the head, or crown chakra, some people call it, that is also related with our awareness, but works in a completely different way and contribute some ideas and perceptions to us that are totally different. One day we can talk about that, but most of that that is related to our thinking process is frontal chakra. So then, why is frontal chakra important for us to build up more sensitivity and grow in our psychic perceptions or maturity in dealing with the non-physical reality of life? It is important because based on the fact that it is related with our thinking and therefore interpretation and conclusion, when we know something is going on and it's not a physical thing, suppose you have a sensation, or suppose you hear a voice and you know that is not physical, you look around, there's no one there, or suppose you have ever had clairvoyance, sorry, as a child, or suppose you still have clairvoyance, or maybe you have had some sensations, even the sleep paralysis. So all of the interpretation, the understanding, and the recognition even that that phenomenon is happening is related to the frontal chakra. So even if you are, for example, feeling a punch in your stomach, or therefore in the solar plexus area, interpreting that that is not a physical thing but something related to energies, analyzing what you feel and sensing that that's not so common, therefore there could be another, or there should be another explanation not related to what you ate or something like that. This knowledge or this capacity of thinking is related to the frontal chakra. So frontal chakra is very critical for us. Even what we communicate, even though we are using our laryngeal chakra, or the chakra here in the area of the throat, somehow this is like translating, to put in some way, what we are thinking or what we are somehow hearing or absorbing. So it's very much related to all of our manifestation, therefore super important. Now, even from the Hindu traditions, there's a lot of studies, or maybe some of the information presented that is like you should somehow put down or not focus on the other chakras, because we want to grow the third chakra. We want to develop the third chakra. That is not so ideal, in my opinion, because we need to have all of them functioning perfectly in harmony so that we would have a good use of the frontal chakra. But some people, they would sense, for example, so how it's felt. So they would sense sometimes movement, not so much in the forehead, like in the skin, but sometimes even around. Some people do feel like in the skin. Sometimes we feel as if the forehead is moving. So we go and we look in the mirror. Is there something going on? You look, there's nothing going on, but you're still feeling that. Sometimes we also feel as if there would be like a feather passing through our forehead. And again, we go and we check again. There's nothing there. So it's a sensation that may come and go. Most interesting sensations, though, of the frontal chakra are those that are related with pulsing the chakra. So sometimes we literally feel like there is a heart here. Boom, boom. Other times we may feel like there is a trunk. That's a bit more rare sensation, but I have had a few times, and some of you may have had that or may be able to produce that when working with your own subtle energies. But it's almost as if the energies of our frontal chakra, they grow, they get out in a so clear way, so dense, that we feel almost like we can move it, we can control it, and we feel this extension. But all of these sensations, nonetheless, are related to two things: what is going on in the chakra and how we normally sense this. So, how we normally sense the chakra is very important that we think of it and we understand about this, because we would sense the chakras based on um, the movement, the type of activation that is going on. So some of the most common activations are actually related to the how would I put it? The expansion of your chakra. I think that's the best way to say it, because our chakras, they are in the opening of the chakra is in the surface of the skin, but when it expands with a denser type of energy, denser not in a bad way, but meaning more clear, so there is more accumulated, more quantity of energy there, then we start sensing it. It's very common also that people would sense as if there would be a hole in their forehead, so it's something passing through. This reveals actually a process that is in the chakra that may also reveal a condition of your energy body. Because for us to be able to sense on any of these things, it's necessary that the energies of that particular chakra is more active, so moving, interacting in different ways with other energies around, or even acting in different ways in our energy body. So looseness of the chakra is important. The more loose, and if you understand what I mean by loose, malleable, flexible, capable of reacting to things that happen around of us. Some people, they have their energies in a way that is all very stagnant. So yes, there are things happening going on, but the energies don't reflect so much. So if for you the characteristic of your energy body is that the whole energy body or that specific chakra that we are talking about now is more flexible, so you will sense it more. But by sensing it, you will be learning also what sort of energy is there, how that is being activated, and why. So, what is going on? Now, in terms of different conditions and different sensations that we they could generate that, we would like to know that um, clairvoyance, for example, is extremely related to the frontal chakra. And the fact that it is related to the frontal chakra is because uh, there is a connection through our pineal gland, frontal chakra, and the non physical body. When we have clairvoyance, we are actually picking something that's not being observed or sensed with the physical eyes, but we are picking something that is more related to the non physical world or the energies around of us. So the moment that we focus on that, we start sensing also non-physical presences, spirits, entities, however you want to call it, but we start picking those non-physical presences in a way that we may have a vision of that. So we are not here to discuss so much about clairvoyance, but I would like to mention that sometimes we would have a clairvoyance, for example, related or more like just seeing how the contour of a shape, or more like a shadow passing by. And shadow does not mean necessarily negative, it's just that we are not perceiving everything. So we see a movement, but not being able to pick exactly why that movement is being generated. Other times, we would have, for example, the impression of seeing different lights or focus of lights. Sometimes we can see something that is fuzzy, it's almost like transparent, but we are still seeing it. Is invisible, but we picture in our mind some of these things. If you're interested about clairvoyance, I have a video that I have published that is types of clairvoyance, and some of them I have discussed because they operate in different ways. They can be used in different ways. So I made a point to explain about these different types there. um, but here, what is important is that the more loose our energies are, the more we will pick what's a non-physical reality around of us. So the more we'll be able to have this type of clairvoyances, or these type of clairvoyances, any of them. But we would like also to know how to interpret our clairvoyance, how to handle them, how to use them in a way that they are useful. Otherwise, we would just have a clairvoyance and we do not know what to do about that. We do not know if that's positive or negative. We may feel disturbed. So, knowing what to do is quite important. Knowing energy procedures that you can directly act on your physical, or sorry, on your energy body. I was going to say that if you have, for example, if you are feeling tired or you need to stretch, immediately you go and stretch. So we know kind of how to interpret the situations in our physical body and what to do. But we are not taught, unfortunately, about the sensations of the energy body. So when we are sensing something, positive or negative, we do not know how to handle or not even how to interpret. It requires experience. So clairvoyance is one of the effects of the frontal chakra when it's more loose, activated, but also it may happen that we become sensitive to presences, even not seeing them. And sensitive to presences does not mean, oh, we will feel ghosts. Sometimes we do, actually, but not only that. we feel different types of energies in environment. We can get a feeling or an intuition about a person's condition, like you are talking to someone, and then you have a feeling of what that person is thinking or of what is going on in that case. So that feeling is super important that we understand and we know what is going on in that case. So um, many different types of perceptions are related to the frontal chakra. If you would like, for example, to be able to activate your frontal chakra, to feel it, what can you do? I think that is a little complex because it depends very much on how you handle your energies, how you can directly sense and be able to do things. But nonetheless, we can develop our skills to affect in different ways our chakras. Actually, we already do, right? But we do it in an unconscious way. And many times we do not know how it operates. Sometimes we have sensations in our chakras that we do not know they are sensations in the chakras. So if you would like to activate it, so different techniques you can use. Many times people try to sit and focus only in this region. That is a technique that may work because if you are already sensitive and if your energies are already loose and flexible, then you can sense it because there is something going on there and you have the capacity to sense. But if you have your frontal chakra more blocked, so the energies are not flowing properly or not flowing so freely, or if you are not very sensitive, you'll be there sitting concentrated in that area, and especially in the case of blocks, sometimes instead of unblocking, you may just be bringing more blocks to that. You may just be bringing more attention to where there is already an accumulation of energy, stagnant energies. So the type of technique will vary from person to person. You have to be sure that if you use the technique of focusing your forehead only, that you, number one, do not do in a way that you tense the muscles of your forehead. If you tense your forehead, or if you cross your eyes, or if you change the position, the natural position, of course, if it's a second, a few seconds, no problem. But some people, they can spend sometimes 20 minutes, 30 minutes in that situation, and later on they may develop headaches or feel their head is kind of heavy. So that is super important that we understand that we cannot tense. And you have to be sure also, if you are focusing only in your forehead, that you are not somehow preceding of the other chakras. You must pay proper attention so that all the chakras are developing and unblocking altogether, if there are blocks, of course. But it's important because our whole manifestation, sensing what's going on, sensing when we are about to have an astral projection, or sensing when there is a good, positive, non physical mentor close to us, maybe giving us some intuitions or giving us some ideas. All of that is very important that we can distinguish and identify that based on our whole energy body, not only in one chakra. So, one of the things that I find more inadequate, if I can put in this word, being sensitive in a way with picking these perceptions, that the condition that is more inadequate is that in which we do not pay attention to the other chakras. So I think there is a lot of different lines of study that emphasizes that too much, that we can or should only focus on third eye, and that is going to bring us to the best. In a way, there is almost like a rejection of the manifestation of the other chakras. Of course, I agree that our awareness, our interpretation of things, we being able to pick and understand things are so important elements of our manifestation that it makes sense that we place a lot of value on that. But in order to be able to interpret something, in order to be able to make sense of that, to grow based on that information, we also have to be able to pick details and energies from different angles and different aspects. So we should, in a way, be very attentive of the whole energy body at once. There is a technique, and probably those of you who have already watched my videos, you see that I speak about this once in a while, that we call velo. But it's just a name. This technique is not unique of only ourselves, but what we have done, or I have done in my book, is that I have developed a very deep understanding of how the technique works, so that we can produce better results and understand the results that are coming. But VELO stands for voluntary energetic longitudinal oscillation, and it's basically moving the energies inside of our bodies up and down in a straight line, but not allowing energy to go out or to come in, because it's supposed to be only us dealing with our own energy. I also have a video teaching that if you want to see the video. But what we would like to do when we do the wheel is that we start kind of unblocking, making it more flexible, the energies of all of our chakras at once. If for you, and that's very important to understand, if for you clairvoyance or sensing the frontal chakra is a predisposition that you have from other lives, by doing the velo, that is going to come out or come up very easily, much faster in a way. But if for you, you are more predisposed, for instance, to sense energies in your hand, or to be able to apply energies to cleanse things or heal things, improve the condition of energies around of you, that is going to be the first thing that you will recognize as a result or as a difference from doing velo. So velo pretty much puts your energies in the best for you, and your skills and your ability will come up. That also is going to unblock. So it's going to make it easier for you to focus and emphasizing whatever chakra you want. And if in that case it is the frontal chakra, great. So it's going to be emphasized and you will develop it. So besides the technique for developing the frontal chakra that is focused on you concentrating here and maybe trying to do different movements, there's also the technique that I just mentioned, that is velo, that will help with the frontal chakra, but at the same time will help with all of them. A different technique that you also can use is trying to produce specific reactions in your frontal chakra. So, for example, just by not only concentrating, but trying to pause or trying to expand, trying to let loose the energies here. But I think those techniques are not so easy for those that have less sensitivity. And again, going to the beginning of my talk, sensitivity does not mean your chakra is working or not. There should be other factors for you to evaluate that. Some people are not sensitive, but everything's okay with their frontal chakra. So we have to take other things into consideration. But for those who are sensitive, they can try and focus in the energies and do this. When we are not so sensitive, we tend to tense the muscles, and that's what I just mentioned before. Another technique that some people they emphasize and talk about is like raising the kundalini. So focusing the energies that are in your whole body, but especially the energies related with our sexual activity, and that does not mean sex, okay? Just mean the the hormones in our bodies that are related to sexual activity, like for example the gonads and this type of glands that we have, but there are energies there, and many people try to work with those energies in order to emphasize or develop in a way the frontal chakra. I find this technique not appropriate because of the way the kundalini works, and I think that would be a completely different video. I have been doing studies on that for many years, analyzing many different situations. I even visited some different type of institutions, like a hospital where people are in certain conditions, to see how their energies are and if the kundalini is affecting or not, or psychiatric hospital, or even the people that I work with, like in the one-on-one sessions in which I would evaluate the energy of the person directly. I examine that because I think that is very critical, that we know how all of our energies are flowing. So, having said that, this is a very natural energy that is in all of us, and it's not sexual in a way that it's related to the feeling of sex, but it's sexual in a way that's related to the functioning of the body in that area. And all of us, we have a body. So all of us, we have this type of energy. Handling it is very critical because sometimes if the Kundalini is not properly understood and there is any type of exploitation from others, physical or non-physical people, on the energies that we have here in this area of the Kundalini, or if we are being drained, or if we are being manipulated based on that, or if for us we have an issue that is overemphasized inside of us, or somehow that is repressed inside of us, this tends to create imbalances that will affect the whole energy body. So, can some people develop the frontal chakra based on that? Yes, because that may produce lots of different effects in our energy body. But it is not the ideal way because these processes tend to leave some marks in the energy body and may just produce more sensitivity to us so that we are open to not so ideal, no physical presences, so we can experience some sort of intrusion of energies on our thoughts, on our bodies, on our energies, and then our emotions start getting confused, and we start losing the control and the sense that we have of ourselves and our physical bodies. So it's quite important that we understand that each chakra, they work separately, as is the case of the frontal chakra. But on the same token, it's very important that we understand that the others and any of others are also related to each of them in the same way in our organs, one is related to another. Having one not working properly will affect other organs and the whole system. Same thing with the chakras. But in spite of this connection between all of the chakras, we still have to take care of them separately or take care of them all at once, as we do with the velo, instead of trying to repress one in order to emphasize the other. This tends not to result very good in medium term for the energy body as a whole. Let me take a look at the little list I had here that I wanted to be sure to mention to you, and then I will open to your questions. Feel free to leave there the questions you have to, if it is the case. So, okay, so I mentioned about the sensations and how to develop. So that's all very good. Do you have any questions? Oh, I see here something that a person here close to me is asking. Then, what would be the sensation when we have our chakra blocked? That's a very good question. Thank you for asking, actually. And what we are going to understand is that sensations of a blocked chakra, we only notice it when it is very severe and when it's recent. When the blocked chakra is blocked for a very long time, so suppose it's blocked, since past life, or since for 10, 15 years, which is not uncommon for some people, then we get so used to that sensation that we don't notice it anymore. And getting used to the sensation is a little bit of a problem because we may think everything is going on normally, and we may try, for example, to do a velo, or we may try to apply our energies into some process, or try to leave the body like in a lucid astral projection, but we will then notice and recognize it's not working. We don't manage to do what we want to do. And that may be due to blocks. When the block is in the frontal chakra, normally what we tend to feel more is some sort of difficulty to specific types of concentration. So someone could be, for example, a mathematician working in university, and the person may concentrate very well on the numbers. But when the person is going to dedicate to something completely different, suppose the person will try to work with energy, or we will try to do our velo, and then all of a sudden it's impossible to concentrate because we are not doing something that is mechanical and based only in the physical brain, but we are at this point involving the energy body in some way. So for that moment, the person may feel huge difficulty and not even being able to focus at all, or being able to focus for only seconds, 30 seconds, 45, 1 minute, but then the concentration is gone. What in this example of mine is illogical, because someone who works mathematics usually concentrates for a long time. So it's not a problem of the brain, but a problem of the energy. So you must be able to check that, how that happens if it is the case. Because in this case, you are not having a sensation, but you are recognizing a symptom. In other cases, also, what we could have is a situation in which we would, for example, have a like feeling headache or feeling a pressure in some way. So that pressure can be in such a case that we will no longer be able to recognize or to distinguish what is a common headache from a process of blockage of energies. Normally, when the headache is related to energy blocks, and please, it's a minority of them, okay? So you should not conclude, okay, I have a headache, so I have blocks. No, it's a minority of them. But when it is related to a block there, you will notice getting worse when you do exercise to try to unblock the chakra, simply because you are touching the point where there is a problem. You are touching the situation where it's exactly the difficulty that was going on there. So then the symptoms, whatever they are emphasized. That's why if someone is going to try and do a velo and they may have some sort of block in their frontal chakra, it may be harder for them to concentrate. Of course, there can be other reasons also for being hard to concentrate, but this is a very common one. Why? Because the person is tackling the energy directly. So therefore, this appears in a very logical way, in a very clear way. Let me take a look here at your questions. I spoke so much. Sorry for that, but I wanted to be sure that I would cover this. I am trying to see the questions here in my. What's going on? For some reason. Oh, okay. Your questions are here at the top. So, what are good exercise for a start of the improvement of our frontal chakra? As for intuition, um, improvement of the frontal chakra, I commented, right, Lisiana? Thank you for being with us. But as far as intuition, not so much that related with the development. Intuition is related to other things. And I think that for us to get more intuitions, we need to be able to distinguish what type of thought is ours and what is not. I do not know if I'm going to say something strange for some of you or to some of you, but many of the thoughts that we have are ideas that just pop in our minds, of the thoughts that come even with images, not necessarily are ours. Sometimes telepathically speaking, we may get this type of thoughts. That's why we may go to a place and we may see our minds inundated with thoughts that are not typically ours. But other times we have thoughts that are basically related to some of the problems that we have, as if that keeps coming back. So we need to recognize this is not mine, and some non-physical presences are emphasizing, are focusing on creating or bringing that from inside of us. Non-physical presence, I do not know how you would call it, but it's almost like a spirit in a way that is not so balanced, but can be around and can affect our thoughts. So we need to distinguish that. What does that have to do with intuition? If we are not to be able to distinguish what is ours, what's not ours, when we have an intuition or a thought that is coming that is positive, is pointing us to some direction, we tend not to notice it. Because for human beings, it's easier to notice what's negative than to notice what is positive. And for that reason, when we have something negative, we start learning, hey, there's an invasion here. We have to stop that one. But what about when there is a positive thinking, a positive intuition? Most people, they are going to notice their intuitions only when they are, for example, in a very deep state of silence and mindfulness, concentrated on themselves. Or they may be able to sense or pick an intuition when they are in a very critical situation, desperate, looking for a solution. So then it's almost like they hear more. Of course, it's not a hearing, it's a capturing the information, but they open more because of that super need. So that is somehow important and needed. So we have to notice what is going on and what is in there for us to be able to pick intuitions. Many intuitions also happen at the time that we are falling asleep. Why? Because we kind of let go a little bit of the control of our thoughts. So intuition is totally related with the frontal chakra, but not only. Intuition sometimes is more related with the coronal chakra. And the frontal chakra is the one that processes, recognize this thought is mine, this thought is not mine. So try to use this type of tip to see how you develop that, because we need to recognize the intuitions, right? And we may have them even if we don't work with the frontal chakra. Actually, most people don't even know what frontal chakra is, and they may have lots of intuitions. But thank you, Lisiane. Hi, John. Thank you for being with us. You placed a question here. Is the third eye chakra related to intelligence and the learning process? How so? Um, Yes, it is related because of this capacity of us to um, create a sequence of logical thinking. But of course, there can be so many different obstacles that the person face, because sometimes the obstacles are just internal psychological, and I'm not going to address those. But sometimes the obstacles are also energetic, are also because of non-physical presences. So whilst the frontal chakra will help someone to be focused, it may also make someone more sensitive to interferences. So I guess that addressed me to the question I just answered before. That is, the more we can figure out how our thinking process works and when it's being affected by other energies or other patterns or quality of thoughts around of us, the better we'll be able to use this. But if somebody is used to read a lot, study a lot, focus, concentrate, control their thinking, and control their thinking is not repressing, is knowing now I'm going to be focused on this, now I'll get to this, now I'm going to accomplish that project, and I will know how to focus and accomplish that. So the more someone is able to do that, the more the frontal chakra develops, and the more the frontal chakra develops, easier it becomes for them to do this. If someone is, for example, different thing, studying for a big exam at the university, I do recommend getting the energies looser, activating the frontal chakra, but I also recommend that can be done through the velo, not only because I see the results on myself and that unblocks and reduces intrusion of energies of others, but also because there are some studies that point out that to the fact that velo activates a lot the brain. So now I'm talking about the physical brain, not the chakra. But it seems that the influence on the energies and on the specific chakras of the head also activates the brain in a way, but energetically speaking, that the person gets more alert. So many different processes, including learning processes, can be very much benefited from that. I hope I have answered, John. If not, just leave your other question and tell me what's not clear, and I'll be happy to discuss with you. Mariana, thank you for your question. I have here, can the acupuncture activate the third eye? My question is because I used to do acupuncture, and there is a point in the area of the third eye. Mariana, it can, and not necessarily when you work with the third eye directly or in different points to activate the third eye. Sometimes when we do acupuncture, and acupuncture can activate any chakra, because that is intended in a way to touch some areas in our body where supposedly, but there has been lots of experimental and practical research on that, because people have been using this for way too long, many centuries. But the acupuncture, because it activates the energy overall, it may produce, for example, sensation like vibration in different areas of the body, which is related to the activation of chakras, even chakras that we do not know the name of them, or there's no name for them, but it can very well activate the frontal chakra. But it's going to be a momentary activation, because during that acupuncture session, something was done that produced looseness in our energy, that produced, in a way, some of activation that will emphasize to us the areas. The number one, we are more sensitive to them. So you may be more sensitive, for example, to sense your chakra in the area of the heart, your cardio chakra, than the frontal chakra. So it's possible that you sense the activation in the heart and not in the frontal. And I guess for anyone who is in an acupuncture session, the best is allow your energy to get loose. If the environment is good, of course, you have to check what place you are in at the time and who is the person that is applying acupuncture on you. Because if the person somehow would be having interference of not so good energies, that may end up affecting you. But if everything's okay, you open your energies and let the energies get loose and see what comes. There can be lots of different reactions, including the frontal chakra. Um, there is here a question of Benny about velo. It's not so much related, but let's see if we can address that in the view of the frontal chakra. When I try the velo technique, I can flow and feel energies from the toes to the neck. Oh, but rarely I feel anything in the head. Any suggestions? Yes, Benny, and that's a very good question because usually when we are doing it in the beginning, so we are still acquiring more control of velo and still unblocking our chakras, it tends to be, for most people, easier either to bring the energies up or to send them down. And that the fact that one of these paths are harder than the other is very much related to how loose the energies are in those specific areas. For those that the energies of their feet, for example, or their legs, or the lower part of their bodies are more loose, then they start having more of these, how can I say, find it easier to send down there because it gets loose. But when the energies are more loose in the area of the head, so it's hard, it's easier to bring it up. Now, in your case, so then logically, by the way you explain here, it is number one, less loose here your energy. So you check if there is any blockage or anything. Sometimes the area with more block can be, for example, in the middle of the way. Suppose it's in your throat. So when it comes through here, the energy passes through your throat, yes, and reach your head, yes, of course. But you don't sense it. You don't sense because being this other part more loose, I don't know if you can see my hands, but being this other part more loose, when the energy passes through, it's more, it creates a movement, creates a reaction, so you sense it. But suppose the energies here in your head are less loose, when the energies pass through it, and they do pass through it, but when they pass through it, the result or the effect is like very little, so not obvious enough, so then we don't sense it. My suggestion is for you to combine velo with other technique. For example, even mentioning about another technique for the frontal chakra, sorry, I missed that before, is that you can, with your own palm chakras, apply energies to your frontal chakra. Use any hand you want, doesn't make difference. And it's important that you don't pay attention to the frontal chakra because your action at that moment is not in the frontal chakra, right? Your action is in the palm chakras. So you are going to be sending energies here until you notice if your action with these energies are producing any result there. Even if you don't sense anything, then you do it for some minutes and let it be. Another day you do again and you do again. So combining this with velo, it can produce very good results. And another thing you can combine with velo also to produce results in the frontal chakra is sending out, emitting energies only through the frontal chakra. So you emit energies through the frontal chakra. Different thing is you can put energies in your own frontal chakra and you do velo. For me, the combination of these three are the best combination to unblock the chakra. And all of that will reflect in your velo. It's natural that sometimes this happens in this way. Thank you for your question, Benny. And then I have here a question for Jorad. Is the third eye chakra has anything to do with the feeling God's existence or God existence and feeling God is watching over us? Not so much. I think that is more related with the fact that there will be, I'm checking here the other question, sorry. It's more related to the fact that there is a sensitivity. And I think this perception that there is something else that we are being guarded, or there's something bigger than us, when it's not, of course, something that we learned from religion or something, but sense inside of us. And I understand Ahmed, hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. Ahmed, right? If not, you tell me next time I pronounce correct. But when it's a sensation that comes from inside of us, and I understand that's what you are saying, it's more related with the coronal chakra that picks things that are subtler than the actual experiences, even in the energy body. The coronal chakra connects us to something higher, bigger. And that's why it's related to the frontal chakra, but it's not the same. It works in very different way. Suppose then, now jump into a different conclusion, that any of you would feel your frontal chakra or any other chakra, as a matter of fact, but focusing on the frontal chakra here, in different ways. So, like movement or pulsing or any of these things. Some people feel that very uncomforting, annoying. I think annoying is a better word, because it's almost as if that is present and interfere with their concentration. So suppose you are trying to write something or do some work and you are feeling something moving, or your forehead is moving like very drastically, even more than you could move with the muscles. Or suppose, for example, that you feel a sensation of heat. Whatever is your sensation, that can be distracting. And people try to stop it because they feel it's not so comfortable. My suggestion is, don't um, do any sort of this type of trying to repress because it's annoying. Don't try to stop it, because you may not get it back to the point it was later on in your life. Many times later on, we are doing exercises to try and bring it back again, and we cannot. So let it be. Try to get used to it. When we fight the sensation, it gets much worse. So speaking of personal experience, so there were moments in which I was having one of these sensations, and I would feel like impossible to concentrate, impossible to be able to focus because it was moving. And instead of fighting with that, I started kind of thinking inside of myself, okay, let me focus and make it stronger. Let me make it, even more clear to me. Let me use this as a point to focus that I am using some sort of operation, some sort of thinking in my mind. So that is what we have to do. And then we will little by little get used. We get used to the heart beating, and we do not get disturbed by that unless when we run, for example, and bam, bam, bam. So we feel it, not necessarily a bad sensation, but then it calls our attention. Will be the same with the sensation of the frontal chakra or any other chakra. Once you get used to it, you allow it be there, then you get more comfortable with that, and that is going to be for good. Okay, so I guess that's it. It's all of the questions I have. Somebody here is saying that they have little energy discharge, like in many muscles of the body. As if, let's see, when I'm doing like an energy technique, what is that? Oh, that is natural thing. Poliana, thank you for your question. Because when we are moving energy, sometimes we may have a physical effect, because the energy body is connected to the physical body. So then there we can have little twitches. And I guess you are saying this because we just spoke that we feel the movement in the forehead. So that can happen. So these little twitches are normal, as a normal reaction. Normally, throughout time, the more we practice Velo or any other technique, the more it reduces. But not necessarily it's going to be something negative or positive that we have to pay attention to. My advice is, don't focus on the twitches in the body or the little movements, okay? Um, so here I have one question, and it's going to be the last one I answer. Okay, it's from Vinicius. Thank you, Vinicius, for being with us. You are saying that sometimes I see tiny lights through the corner of the eyelids. They move like a boreal aurora and last only 2 or 3 seconds. Do you have any idea what that phenomenon could be? And hugs from Brazil. Thank you, Vinicius, for joining from Brazil. I know today's election day in Brazil, so not so easy for us Brazilians, but okay, that happens, and we have to deal with the candidates we have. But this, Vinicius, can be something related with activation of the frontal chakra. But I would like to add, and actually I meant to say that from the beginning of the talk and just escaped me, we need to be very aware that sometimes we may see some of these lights and things, and that can be just a physical process. But the physical process that is more normal in the vision, that could be confused with something related with the frontal chakra, is when, for example, there is a point of light or a point of dirt, right, in which you have that point there, and then you keep moving and looking around, and that moves with your vision. That is not clairvoyance. That is something else. But sometimes you may look, for example, at a natural place, and I'm looking out here because I have a very beautiful place here with many plants in front of me. I am in a friend's house in San Francisco. But when I look at that, and there are brilliant points, but you move your eyes, those brilliant points are not moving with your eyes. Sometimes it's just we picking the energies of nature. We don't see that in every time we look at any area in nature. If it happens every time in any area, probably it's not clairvoyance. But sometimes there are areas in which there are too many energies. We see that a lot in our campus of the IAC in Portugal, and there are areas that I already know that they have a specific type of energy. So sometimes I bring people to practice clairvoyance there, because by looking at that area, we can see the energies coming from the ground and from the plants. Not everybody can see, of course, but by focusing, and I teach people how to focus, we can see. So these type of things we need to learn how for example, image that is only in our retina, can be a light or something, would affect or we would feel like, instead of when it's related to the frontal chakra. I guess you should study this a little bit. What you are describing can very well be some relation or some activity of the frontal chakra. In your place, I would not do anything about it, not trying to stop, not trying to emphasize. However, I would pay attention if that could be for you a energetic signal or a parapsychic signal, because and this can be a topic for another talk for those who do not know what I'm talking about, but I know Vinicius follow my work for some time, because the parapsychic signals, they may be there, and it is related with energy. It is a type of clairvoyance, but they are not there because you are actually seeing something at that moment, but you are picking something in the energy. You are picking something almost in a premonitory way, like a precognition, a premonition, and it gives you that impression. So it's actually giving you some information. So observe also, Vinicius, if that is not a parapsychic signal, it could be. Okay. One more question entered here. I was to stop, but I'll try to attend also those who are here. All ESP are at least indirectly related to the third eye. In my opinion, Rob, yes. I have been studying about chakras for almost 20 years now. First, because of a personal interest, I have had many sensations throughout my life that I recognized later they were sensations of the chakras. But then I saw how important they are. And then finally I noticed there's not much information about it. The informations are just repetitions of what have been said so long ago, not necessarily updated. Those who have new information not necessarily transfer them because it's new and not everyone accept. So I have been studying this for a long time. And in my experience, yes, all ESP somehow are related to the third eye. Even if it indirectly related, they are. Except for, and that's not so much an ESP, but just to make sure I mention this, except for when there is something that is more like an ectoplasmic event, like related with ectoplasm, because that can happen independently of the will or awareness of the person. But the ESP per se, because we are talking of a perception, extrasensory perception, the word perception per se implies some functioning or some contribution, involvement of the frontal chakra. I hope I have answered. Thank you for your question, Rob. And then I have here João Araújo. The activation of the third eye chakra is developed by the movement of energy in this area. Which exercise do you recommend? João, probably you join us just now, and I recommended several exercises in the beginning of the video. When you're here, you will see there different exercises. But answering the first part of your question, the activation of the third eye is developed by the movement of the energies in this area. No, I think the activation is more a result of the activation instead of being what causes the activation. So it's more proper here to think, what can I do to activate so that I have the movement? That is a better way of saying. Um, so there are different things you can do, but it's also related to those I spoke in the beginning of the video. Um, Doing velo, doing different energy exercise, but mostly, and I want to add that, being able to allow it to happen. There's lots of experiences and sensations in our third eye that we do not actually allow them to raise up because we have many times a little trauma, unconscious one, or a little fear. Even if we want to, we want, I'm doing exercises. But some people who are dedicating so much to that, they may have had experiences as a child, for example, or may have heard things about the dangers of this or that, and that stays in their mind, preventing them from really let it happen. So I propose to all of you, relax, do your exercise, and let it grow, let it happen. Because many times we are holding the activation. Huh? I hope this tip helps you, João. Thanks. Um, we have here also Poliana. Thanks again, Poliana. The color that pulse with eyes closed. It indicates the frequency of the energy that you reach, and not necessarily because color of energy is very complex and can change based on many different factors. It can perhaps more be related, I'm sorry, it can be related more probably with how you perceive the energies. So it's not so objective. I'm picking energies from a level this or a frequency that or a dimension this, and that's why it's purple. It's more like when I somehow connect with energies of this type of environment or this type of quality of energy, that produces on me a violet perception. So not necessarily it's so objective, but more how subjectively you perceive it. It can be also objective, but in very specific cases. But the way you describe here, the frequency of the energy you reach, not necessarily, because you may see violet or blue, and someone else can see, for example, pink or a different tone of blue, because these are similar tonalities of colors. So these are similar shades or come from the same primary colors. So it can vary from person to person. Okay. So what I would suggest, Poliana, is that you observe, for example, what is the energy you pick that makes you see purple? Because for you, that may be an indication, but not objective indication for everyone. That's what I'm trying to say. Rob, again here. Thanks, Rob, for asking another question. In your studies, have you found any relation with a more alkaline body, more conducive body to having a more activated third eye? Another very interesting question. I have not found this relation yet, but to be honest, I have not dedicated one study to this. I have dedicated studies, yes, to understand the overall health condition of the person. For example, if someone has a liver problem, how does that affect the overall energy as a whole? This I have studied quite a lot. Or a spleen problem, or would a heart problem be observable in the energy body? Does that mean the energy body will be affected negatively or positively? Also have studied, for example, somebody who goes through a surgery, and of course something in the physical body is changed. We know that our chakras are also connected to the physical body, not only, but also there is some cohesion and adhesiveness to the physical body. I explained that very much in my book about the adhesiveness, coherence, density of the different energies and how they attach to the physical body. But because of this, I observe sometimes that some surgeries, and that's a topic we can comment in another video, but some surgeries may affect temporarily in a negative way the energy body, and of course later on it recovers. But some surgery actually improve when that was related to some block that was there. So it helped some block to go away. So it can affect in different ways. I've never studied the body from the point of view of being more acidic or alkaline, but I would guess that would have an overall reaction and not to the third eye, because our health, what we eat, affect how we sense in our body and will affect our energy. But there is no specific diet, in my observation, being very neutral, that will be good for everyone. So what is good for us is that which make us healthier. Of course, we cannot eat too much of junk food, but but other than that, the type of ingredients we consume will vary from person to person. Some people cannot drink milk, other can. So milk is bad for everyone. Maybe the milk we have nowadays in on the shelves, they can be bad for everyone because there's a lot of treatments. But the actual milk, as it was supposed to be for many people, is no problem at all. So we are having a lot of distortions in the way we eat and how it affects our energies. But I don't have a so specific precise answer because I did not do a specific research on that. But my guess would be what I have mentioned. I hope it helps in some way. Okay, very good. I guess that's it. Well, we are done with here most of the questions, and I just would like to thank you. I will later, because now it's going to be published automatically, but I will later put to you in the description some of the videos that I have done that are connected to this video as well. I can only thank you for being with me. For those of you who are watching in a different moment, thank you also for participating. It's a longer video, but I think sometimes we need time to go into details and explain them properly enough. So I appreciate very much. See you in the next live talk. Hopefully next month. I'm going to try to arrange my schedule for this. My schedule is pretty crazy, but I take a lot of pleasure in doing what I'm doing here. So I can only thank you, and goodbye to all of you. And see you soon, perhaps even in a video that's not live. Thank you again. Bye bye. Bye.